All right, so we're going to start the story on Sunday, May 29th, 2005. 18-year-old Natalee Holloway is soaking up her last 24 hours on the island of Aruba. She's on her high school's unofficial graduation trip. She's accompanied by 124 fellow graduating seniors and 7 adult chaperones from Birmingham, Alabama. This is a trip her high school does every year for their seniors. And if you were going to let your 18-year-old go anywhere to party, Aruba seems like a good place to stay. It's a Dutch constituent. It's 20 miles long. It's about the same size as Washington, D.C. And at the time that this all took place, the homicide rate was similar to that of the United States. So when Natalee went off on her trip, her mom wasn't necessarily all that worried about her. Natalee was a great student. She was a really good kid. She followed the rules. She rarely got into trouble. And this trip started out the exact same. Along with most of her graduating class, Natalee spent the first 3 days mostly at the beach, at the pool. She hung out by the hotel casino a little bit. The legal age for drinking and gambling in Aruba is only 18 years old. So the students, when they were there, like we did on our senior trip too, to Spain, they were like taking full advantage of that.
Where did you guys go to high school? Like, this is not, like, we had an all-night grad party and that is what we got and you liked it. Like,
oh, that's so crazy.
You and your affluent neighborhoods are getting some crazy senior trips.
Listen, I went to a public school with no bells or whistles, but we were able to pay for them to take us to Spain. That Sunday is Natalee's last day in paradise. It starts with a concert on the beach featuring Lauryn Hill, Boys to Men. Then the party moves to the casino before heading over to Carlos and Charlie's, which is a Mexican-themed chain bar and restaurant that's about a 5 to 10 minutes drive off of hotel property in Oranjestad, Aruba. There's a photo that was captured during the night of Natalee dancing. She has this really blissful expression on her face. And after the bar closes that night, Natalee and a friend, Jessica Kaelyn, grab some street food outside before they head back to their hotel, the Holiday Inn. They're both a little tipsy from a night of partying, and that's when Jessica turns around and sees that Natalee is darting off. She's getting into what Jessica would describe as a white car, and that was later identified as either a gray Honda or a silver Nissan. At the time, Jessica thinks that Natalee must have found someone to give her a ride back to the hotel. Over the course of their trip, they'd learned that taxis are pretty hard to get in Aruba, especially after the bar is closed. So Jessica doesn't really blame her for taking the ride. And everyone who knows Natalee knows that she's a responsible person. So Jessica just figures she'll see Natalee back at the hotel and doesn't really think about it more than that. However, Natalee doesn't make it back to her room that night. Her roommates at the time didn't necessarily find it strange. Students in the group had been spending nights in each other's room the whole trip. They would sometimes party or just hang out, whatever. And in fact, the group had been having such a good time that the hotel had already decided that the school was not welcome back the following year. Natalee's absence, that's to say, doesn't really sound any alarms in the moment. That is until the following morning, when it's time for the group to head back to the airport and go home. The plan for everyone was to meet at the Holiday Inn lobby before 10 a.m., so all the students could head back to the airport for their flight. Natalee, however, is a no-show. And that is very strange for her because she's never late to anything. When the chaperones go back and check her room, they see that her passport and her suitcase are there, but Natalee is not. And that's when the chaperones call her mother, Beth, back in the United States. And the instant that Beth hears that Natalee didn't show, she calls 911 and then later the FBI. While all of the other students head home, one of the chaperones decides that they're going to stay behind in Aruba, thinking that maybe she got lost or she was out that night, whatever. Like at some point she's going to come back and apologize for being late for this flight. But that, as we know, is not going to be the case because Natalee is never seen alive again. Now, just a little bit of backstory on Natalee's family kind of leading up to this. When Natalee was around 7, her parents, Beth and Dave, got a divorce. It seems like her parents didn't necessarily both agree on her going on this trip in general. Dave, her dad, thought that a nearly $1,000 trip was a little much for an 18-year-old. He was also concerned, we kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but there was a very low ratio of chaperones to students. It was about 7 chaperones to 124 students.
Which is, the kids are really outnumbering the chaperones.
Really outnumbering them, yes.
Especially Aruba. Yeah, it's close.
It's a foreign country.
It's still a foreign country.
Yeah.
And they're all partying. Like, they're going out. That's why they go there. So I get it.
Yeah. Beth, on the other hand, though, felt like her teenager deserved a vacation. She had maintained this 4.15 GPA the entire school year. She had received a full scholarship to the University of Alabama. She was going there to be pre-med. Beth believed that this trip was actually going to be good for Natalee. It was something that Natalee wanted to do more of. She wanted to travel. Plus, she would be, in theory, surrounded by her peers, even some adults, even though it wasn't a lot of adults. So to Beth, this trip felt relatively low risk. And eventually it seems like her dad allowed her to go on this trip as well. He even gave Natalee half of the cost of the vacation as a graduation gift. He tried to not worry too much about the kind of trouble that she might get into while she was there, but he never expected that he was going to have to go to the island himself to look for his missing daughter. Now, when Beth got the news that Natalee was missing, she was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. After she learned that news, she raced back to Birmingham, where she had a friend of the family who actually was able to arrange a private jet for her to go to Aruba and search herself.
Every week, we dive into the pieces, both hidden and obvious, behind some of the biggest true crime cases. Subscribe to Clues Pod with Morgan Absher and Kaelyn Moore on YouTube.
And remember, every clue counts.